Brutal truths, what mountain men knew about cabin building that haunts today. Find out now. In the harsh shadows of the towering pines, the secrets of the mountain men echoed like whispers on the wind. Every cabin they raised was a testament to resilience, but beneath their sturdy logs lay dark truths that rattled the very earth beneath them. These weren't just shelters, they were vaults of human despair, constructed in desperate times where life and death dangled by a fragile thread. Imagine, for a moment, the damp chill creeping through the cracks as howling winds whipped through the forest, carrying tales of lost souls that had once sought refuge within these walls. The strange workings of nature took on a more sinister shade, revealing something unsettling about the materials used. The strange absence of wildlife, the silence broken only by the occasional rustle in the underbrush, made every heartbeat feel like thunder. What if the very wood that crafted their homes was touched by hands soaked in desperation and madness? Stories spun in taverns suggested the wood had absorbed the pain, each grain a testament to horror, each creak a reminder of the past, a haunting echo that still lingers in the air. Then there was the strange phenomenon around the cabins, a shadowy presence that seemed to gather just out of sight. It was said that at night, when the moon hung low and the clouds danced eerily, shapes could be seen flitting amongst the trees, almost human but twisted in form. Fishermen spoke of feeling eyes upon them, a sense of creeping dread that twisted their insides tighter than the coils of a snake. What truly lay hidden in the woods? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. As dawn broke, casting a golden hue over the snowy peaks, a shiver ran down the spine of those who dared venture near. The truth about the mountain men wasn't just about survival, it was about what they left behind. Was it the wind carrying the echoes of their struggles, or something more, a warning not to tread the same path? And just like that, the thrilling sense of mystery deepened. Who would be the next to uncover these horrific secrets buried within the woods, and would they be prepared for what awaited them? The air was thick with tension as night fell over the mountainous terrain. The temperature dropped sharply, and the shadows lengthened ominously, stretching like dark fingers across the landscape. Those who dared to linger felt an electric charge in the atmosphere, a sense that something was coming, something unfathomable. Maggie, a local historian with deep roots in these parts, had set out to uncover the truth. Despite the warnings, she couldn't ignore the pull of curiosity. The locals were tight-lipped, their eyes filled with a mixture of dread and disbelief as she pressed them for answers. But her determination only fueled their unease. She knew there was more beneath the surface of those ancient logs, and she was determined to find out. Armed with faded maps and a lantern flickering like a candle in the wind, she climbed the path to the oldest cabin rumored to be the heart of the darkness that enveloped these woods. As she approached, the structure seemed to breathe. The wind whistled through the cracks, creating a low moan that resonated deep within her bones. Standing before the cabin, a sense of foreboding almost knocked the air from her lungs. She hesitated. What stories had that cabin witnessed? What had been hidden from the eyes of the world? Maggie stepped inside, her heart racing as the door creaked open, echoing the cries of the long-forgotten. Dust particles danced in the weak glow of her lantern, and for a moment, she felt surrounded not by walls, but by the weight of lost lives. Each step echoed, each breath felt like an intrusion. What was that? A whisper? Or just her imagination? Shaking off the apprehension, Maggie sorted through the debris, old tools, rotting furniture, remnants of a life once lived. Something caught her eye, a wooden panel slightly askew. Her hands trembled as she pried it open. Beneath it lay a small chest, its surface marred yet intact. A chill coursed through her as she opened it, heart pounding like a war drum. Inside, she found journals, diaries cramped with scrawled handwriting that revealed more horror than she had bargained for. The entries told tales of desperation, loss, and shadows that crept closer each night. As she read, the words seemed alive, thrumming with fear that sent shivers down her spine. "Maggie!" A voice low, gravelly whispered behind her. She spun around, the lantern casting dancing shadows. The cabin felt suddenly smaller, the walls closing in like a cage. Goosebumps spread over her skin. They hadn't been mere stories. This was real. Was it one of the twisted shapes that prowled the woods? Had she unwittingly awakened something that should have stayed buried? Her breathing quickened, panic setting in. The shadows deepened, stretching to the corners of the cabin as the voice grew louder, a disjointed chorus of forgotten souls. Maggie stumbled backward, nearly tripping over the chest as she gasped for air. What lay beyond those logs, the spirits of the mountain men or something far more sinister? She had come seeking the truth, but the truth was clawing its way to the surface, and she wasn't sure she was ready for it. Her eyes darted toward the door. Did she dare to run, to escape the cabin that felt alive with malevolence? Or would she remain a prisoner of the very story she had sought to uncover? As her heart thundered, an eerie calm settled over the cabin. A decision loomed before her, and all she could do was wonder, was she meant to unveil the haunted past or become a part of it? What would she discover if she stayed? In that moment, beneath the lantern's glow, the true horror of the mountain men stood waiting. The choice was hers, but would it lead to her salvation or damnation? The voice seemed to seep through the walls, creeping into her mind like a chill mist that turned her blood to ice. Maggie's heart raced wildly. "Maggie," it repeated, now layered with urgency. She twirled the lantern toward the darkness, illuminated the faded walls that had borne witness to so much suffering. The promise of secrets lay thick in the air, yet the danger was palpable. She couldn't shake the feeling that the cabin was whispering to her, urging her to look deeper. She leaned closer to her flickering beacon of light, scanning for the source of the call. "Who's there?" she dared to ask, her voice barely breaking over the rising swell of the wind outside. Silence responded, but the shadows seemed to pulse with the unspoken. The hairs on her arms raised as if touched by unseen hands. Suddenly, the lantern flickered violently before the light sputtered and threw her into total darkness. Panic surged like a tidal wave. Maggie fumbled for her pocket, her fingers desperately seeking the matches she always carried. With a swift strike, the match flared to life. Its glow revealed only fleeting glimpses of the room, yet it brought an immediate semblance of control back to her universe. She caught sight of something, a figure, a flicker of movement at the corner of her vision. "Maggie, help us," the voice rasped again, thick with need. This time the weight of despair in those words gripped Maggie's heart, pulling her deeper into a swell of dread. Was it a cry of the spirits trapped in the cabin, or a warning from the past? She took a cautious step, the floor creaking beneath her weight. "Maggie, you must." Before finishing, the voice twisted into an anguished wail, echoing through the cabin and unleashing a shiver of horror that ripped through her. Goosebumps prickled across her skin as terror mounted, but curiosity, that relentless beast, drove her forward. She needed answers. Who had been these souls? What had the mountain men done? Adjusting her stance, she moved toward the far wall where a dim outline loomed, a painting, or something resembling one, veiled beneath years of grime. The urge to pull it away pushed her onward, though the unseen fingers of dread still gripped her. These were fragments of people once alive, filled with hopes, fears, and tragedies she now felt responsible for uncovering. With trembling hands, Maggie peeled the covering back, revealing a crude depiction of a man with wild, haunting eyes. Hair falling over his forehead, the unmistakable look of madness. The scene resonated deeper, a town burning just beyond the woods, the bleeding of both men and nature intertwining in an agonizing display. A sob escaped her lips, mingling with the remembrance of the voice that had whispered her name. "Maggie, find us." "Find who?" she gasped. Just then, an icy gust swept through the cabin, rattling the windows and extinguishing her match. Darkness swallowed her whole once again, the voice now more insistent. Maggie! They will come for you. She stumbled back in despair. The weight of the journals in her hand seemed to shift, and she caught the shimmer of something breaking through the dust at her feet, a necklace, its surface glinting faintly in the dark like a beacon of lost hope. Maggie reached down, heart racing anew. Whatever bond she felt to this place was intensifying with every touch. It began to feel as if the very ground beneath was yearning for her, the chains of the past wrapped tightly around her ankles. Just outside, a low growl echoed through the trees, hungry, primal, prowling. That tension, the fabric of courage straining against fear, thinned. Was she ready to face whatever haunted these woods? Footsteps. They were closing in. What secrets were waiting to be unleashed? With her spirit wavering between resolve and dread, Maggie had a choice to make. Do she flee into the night or embrace the darkness that had risen to greet her? The shadows waited, breathless, for her response. Before Maggie could decide, another surge of cold air swept through the cabin, making her shiver and sparking her senses into high alert. The growl outside grew louder, a raspy warning that pulled her thoughts tight. The necklace felt cool in her hand, almost alive, vibrating with an energy that matched her racing pulse. "Come out," the voice urged, now softer, more intimate, but edged with desperation. "Before they find you." Who was she supposed to trust? The haunting remnants of the past or the primal fear skittering in the darkness? She squinted, searching for the pinprick of light from the window, but the murky shadows devoured it all. The footsteps encroached, steady and heavy. They belonged to a single entity, yet they felt multiplied, a collective weight of dread consuming her. She glanced back at the painting. Who was that man? What terrible events were captured in those maddening eyes? To her right, a low creak transformed into a snap, and Maggie pointed the lantern frantically toward the source, nausea swamping her as fear took root. She started backing away but froze when she saw the figure cloaked in shadows, just beyond the threshold of the flickering lantern light. It was tall, looming, and somehow familiar. "Find us," it whispered again, but the voice sounded different, more dissonant. What do you want?" Maggie stammered, her own voice a trembling leaf caught in a storm. The figure took a step forward, revealing tattered clothing and a face warped by pain, endless sorrow etched into its skin. For a brief moment, recognition soared and crashed inside her. This face, was it him? The man from the painting? Maggie, the word flowed like a current, washing over her as tilting shadows wrapped tighter around his form. "I want answers," she shouted back, becoming bolder, despite the volcanic eruption of terror boiling inside. A low chuckle escaped from the figure, as if amused by her bravery. "Answers? It's buried deep. In the ashes of truth and blood, it lingers. This place is a tomb but also a path." "A path?" Maggie's heart thundered, the walls closing in seemed to echo her disbelief. "Yes." The figure stepped into the dim glow, revealing more of his tormented expression. "You are the key. They sense you, Maggie. The hunt has begun." "They?" The raw intensity in his gaze sent a shiver racing through her. "What hunt?" Before she could digest the fear gnawing at her throat, the howling grew louder outside, the ground vibrating slightly beneath her feet. Something was out there, something ancient and filled with malice. Instinct kicked in, she needed to get out. She had to find a way to escape. "What do I do?" she pleaded, clinging to the glimmering necklace, a lifeline in this chaos. The figure began to fade into the shadows, that maddening gaze locking onto hers. "Embrace the darkness or let it consume you. The choice will seal your fate, Maggie. You have to choose now." The voice urged frantically, almost swallowed by the sound of something monstrous scraping at the door. With each beat of her heart, time stretched taut, her body screaming to flee while curiosity anchored her to this grim reality. As the door rattled against its frame with feral intensity, she darted her eyes between the figure and the threshold, the anguished cry of the past pushing her toward an uncertain future. The moment had come. What was the truth that rested within the cabin's depths? And then an ear-splitting crack. The door splintered, and dark shapes poured into the room. Maggie gasped, the air thick with impending dread. What would she unleash? Would answering the past bring her salvation or doom? She wanted to scream, but no sound emerged as the shadows loomed closer, hungry for her decision. What had she gotten herself into? The darkness beckoned, her fate intertwined with mysteries woven into the very walls she had come to uncover. What destiny awaited her as the hunt eclipsed the horizon? The darkness surged into the cabin, unfurling like a monstrous wave. The shapes slithered toward Maggie, their silhouettes writhing as they merged with the shadows. Her heart raced like a drum, thundering against her ribs as she fought the instinct to bolt. One of the figures broke away, curling toward her with a spectral smile twisted in hunger. Maggie, it purred her name, the sound slick and gooey like a nasty secret punctured from the depths. Join us, get back. She swung the lantern wildly, the light flickering across cold, hollow eyes and mouths that grinned wider, revealing jagged teeth. But the lantern's glow didn't much deter them. Each beam diminished, failing to pierce the oppressive gloom. She could feel their hunger, a gnawing darkness swimming around her, pulling at her spirit. Choose. The man, the one from the painting, clawed to the forefront of her memory. His face loomed large over her thoughts, echoing his warning. Embrace it. She swallowed hard, the taste of terror thick on her tongue. I want to join you. Desperation rang in her voice as she backed further into the cabin, searching frantically for an escape. The window? The back door? Anything but this suffocating nightmare. And then she felt it. The necklace pulsed in her hand, radiating warmth. It vibrated with an energy that called to her, wrapped around her fears and pulled them into something more powerful. What are you? She whispered, staring down at the glimmering artifact. The figures hesitated, as if the necklace struck a chord of recognition in them. Whispers grew louder, layering over one another in a ghostly chorus. The key, they writhed, faces twisting in frustration. Maggie flipped the necklace in her hand, contemplating. It could lead her to answers, but at what cost? What if this power was not salvation but a more insidious form of entrapment? The walls around her were alive, breathing secrets. She could almost hear the wood groan, sharing the sins of the past, mingling with the shadows. Whatever you do, don't give in. The echo of the man's voice thrummed in her mind. It knows your fear. It will use it against you. In that heartbeat, the shadows flared, roaring at her refusal. The dark figures shrieked, their cries sharp like glass shards. The frenzy spiraled as they contorted, morphing into something new, something monstrous. Maggie felt the air thicken with their rage, pressing in like a vice. Release it. One of them screeched, its voice a cyclone of agony and wrath. The cabin quaked, dust raining from the rafters as the shadows surged, a frenzied storm of despair and hunger. You are one of us. No. She could barely think, her mind racing like a freight train. I'm not. With each word, she planted her feet, grounding herself, anger sparking a fire she thought long extinguished. The necklace flared, light surging from it, illuminating the faces of the figures momentarily. For a split second, the shadows shrank back, then they lunged, ravenous, with every ounce of resolve. She lifted the necklace high, its light illuminating the cabin's depths. The air shimmered, almost palpable, mingling with the horror that had settled into the very foundation. I want to be part of this. You can't have me. In that moment of defiance, a small crack of light poured in through the falling door. It split the darkness slightly, the warmth embracing her as the shadows recoiled. But what did it mean? What power lay in that necklace? She needed to act now or face them. Out of the chaos, a voice called from the shadows again, this time colder, sharper. The hunt isn't only for you, Maggie, it seeks all that you hold dear. Her breath caught, realization crashing over her. They weren't just here for her, this was bigger, and she had stumbled into something far more treacherous than she ever imagined. With determination fueling her pulse, she turned the pendant toward the wall, where a faint inscription flickered at the edges of the light. "Come forth!" she shouted, channeling everything she had into that small, sacred object. "Let them know it's time to face the truth." The walls groaned as the darkness stirred, a palpable force that responded to her call. Would it help her uncover the grave mysteries or unleash a far worse horror waiting to escape? Only time would tell, and in that moment, as the ground rattled beneath her feet and the shadows rippled closer, she clung to the hope that piercing the veil would grant her the power to break free. The lingering truth awaited, just out of reach, a heartbeat away from another revelation, another horror lurking in the depth. What had she unleashed? Would the truth be her salvation, or would it drag her into the chasm of their despair? Her voice echoed in the cabin, fading into the stillness that followed. The air thickened with an electric charge, the shadows writhing as if debating whether to obey or resist her command. Maggie pushed forward, heart hammering now with a mix of fear and fury. The necklace pulsed again, brighter this time, casting eerie reflections on the walls. Questions flooded her mind. What truth did it unveil? What lay behind that faint inscription? Strength in darkness, one of the figures whispered, its face shadowed yet somehow pleading. It knows you, it knows your past. Maggie froze, the words penetrating her defenses. Her past. The moments she buried deep guilt from decisions that haunted her, memories that played like a broken record. "No!" she shouted, shaking her head furiously. "Not now. You won't control me with fear." But the shadows seemed to throb with life, clinging to her vulnerabilities, twisting them into weapons. She felt her breath quicken, the weight of memories clashing against her resolve. "Face what you've done!" they shrieked, their voices overlapping, turning into a spine-chilling chorus. "Face the truth!" Tremors rippled through the ground beneath her, jagged bursts of energy cascading through the walls. The room felt alive, throbbing, and pulsing like a heart pushing blood through veins. The dark figures began to coalesce, shifting from mere shapes to something more tangible, something that threatened to drag her back into the shadows, a reflection of her own fears. "Don't let it win!" the man from the painting shouted, his voice a lifeline. Vision clear now, she saw the battle within her, a fight against not just the shadows, but against the doubts that clawed at her spirit. Maggie gritted her teeth, raising the necklace higher, channeling her memories of light into it. "I am not afraid. You cannot own me." Light burst from the pendant, flooding the cabin, a stark contrast to the creeping darkness. The shadows writhed, shrieking in anguish as if the light burned them. "You think the past can be erased?" they howled, their forms flailing, desperate to consume her. "It can only be accepted." The cabin shook, dust swirling like stinging bees in the air. The wood creaked, fragments of her childhood scratching at her mind, faces of loved ones lost, moments of weakness and regret. Maggie inhaled deeply, letting those memories wash over her instead of consuming her. "I face them. I embrace my truth," she declared, letting the power of the necklace radiate through her. At once, the light enveloped the room, swirling, cleansing. Shadows screamed, distorting into grotesque shapes as they scrambled back, unable to withstand the radiant force. And then silence. A heavy stillness fell, the light flickering softly around her like an embrace. Maggie lowered the necklace, breath catching in her throat as she took in the transformed cabin. Where darkness ruled, now stood something different, an aura of possibility. But glitches of shadow still lurked at the edges, like dark moths waiting for the chance to flutter back into the light. "You've only delayed," a voice brushed against her ear, soft yet like ice. "There's more to uncover." Maggie stepped back, instincts flaring, the room seeming to shift around her. What did that mean? How much deeper did the abyss go? In the shadows outside the cabin, she sensed restless figures prowling, watching, and beneath it all, fear crept back in, not just for her, but for creatures and loved ones entwined in this haunting dance. Shadows whispered of other secrets still hidden, truths not yet faced, the anguish remained raw and potent, almost biting at her heels. "What is it?" she breathed, scanning the raw darkness that pressed in. "What do you want from me?" The shadows whispered again, cold and deliberate. "To show you what you're truly capable of." Maggie's grip tightened around the necklace still warm in her palm. Each pulse echoed another question she couldn't shake. The darkness didn't want her to relent, it wanted her to understand. But was there enough strength left in her to face whatever lay beyond the next threshold? And with that uncertainty hanging in the air, the shadows lurked closer, ready to reveal their final, chilling surprise. The shadows lunged forward, swirling like a tempest. Maggie felt their cold breath against her skin, and instinctively, she raised the necklace as a shield. The light radiated once more, but the figures pressed in, their urgency palpable like a heartbeat in her ears. "Do you really think you've banished us?" A voice sneered, rich with malice. "We are woven into the fabric of your existence." Panic surged, tightening her chest. "I will not be trapped by you," she yelled, her voice cracking under the pressure. But doubt crawled back into her mind, whispering the truths she tried so hard to avoid. Each shadow pulsed with its own story, a memory linked to her failures. Faces flashed before her, parents arguing, friends betrayed, choices left to rot like forgotten fruit. She stumbled back, unsteady, unsure if she was ready to confront all that lay buried. "Look closer, Maggie," the shadows taunted. "Your greatest fears are waiting, just beyond the light." And then she saw it, a dark figure emerging, its face shadowed but familiar. Her heart dropped as recognition hit like a blow. It was a younger version of herself, lost and uncertain, standing at a crossroads echoing some distant decision. The girl's eyes reflected her own fears, and trapped in the memory, Maggie could feel the weight of regret draping over her shoulders like a cloak. "Let me go," the girl cried out, desperation flooding her voice. "I don't want to remember." Maggie shook her head, tears brimming. "But we have to. I have to face you." The cabin began to quake, wood splintering under the strain of emotions set loose. With every cry, new figures began to emerge, people who had trusted her, loved her, those she had let down. "Your doubts turn us into monsters," one of them bellowed, stepping forward, face etched in sorrow. "You can't outrun your past, Maggie. Stand still and face the truth." Reality twisted, the shadows mixing with vivid scenes from her life, her first fall, when she stumbled in a race, a friend she'd abandoned during a crisis, moments where fear stopped her from reaching out. Each moment was sharp and painful, yet wrapped in the chalice of understanding. "There you," Maggie whispered, fighting against the rising tide of despair. "Can't you see? I was afraid." "Fear is a chain," another echoed, stepping closer. "Break it, and you'll be free." In that instant, a spark ignited inside her. This wasn't just about fear or pain. It was about taking those memories, dark as they were, and using them as motivation to rise. "Enough!" she shouted, grasping the necklace as it blazed with light. "I will embrace you, all of you." The shadows stilled at her words, coalescing into a swirling mass of light and dark, showing her the truth they held, the beauty of her journey through struggle. Each moment, however painful, was a thread in the tapestry of who she was meant to be, but the moment didn't last. The wind howled, blowing through the shattered walls, and the shadows shifted ominously, ready to strike. "You think that's all it takes?" they screeched, their voices intertwining in chaos. "You're not nearly done." The glowing necklace dimmed as darkness wrapped around Maggie, tightening like a vice. She gasped, feeling the cold creep back in, fear clinging on like a familiar ghost. "More lies, more truths. Can you withstand it?" the voice taunted. Maggie's resolve glimmered like a flickering candle. "I can face what's left." Suddenly, the shadows exploded with laughter, scattering like leaves caught in a storm. "Then let us begin, the real journey awaits." Maggie braced herself for whatever else would come, the shadows were just the beginning. The real test loomed ahead, formidable and dark, waiting for the moment to capture her completely. What awaited in the shadows? The hidden truths and grave decisions still nestled in her soul. Could she transform them from shackles into wings, or would they ensnare her in the beams of darkness forever? The shadows rippled and reformed, shapes twisting into nightmares made real. Maggie felt the chill seep further into her bones, the cold creeping into her heart like winter frost. She had thought she was ready, but this was a whole new level of fear. Your journey is only beginning, the cacophony of voices sang out, mixing with the howling wind, each sound like nails on glass. She stumbled back, each footstep feeling like she was pushing against an invisible wall of dread. What do you mean? She shouted, fear lacing her voice as the shadows began to close in again. I faced you. I embraced my past. Ah, but your past is just one mountain in a chain of terror. They whispered, growing omnipresent. Images lunged forward, screams and cries, her isolations, and heartbreaks flaring before her eyes. Maggie clutched the necklace tighter, it still held warmth, but it flickered ominously. Fear is not the only truth, Maggie, a voice said low, smooth and silk-like, distinct from the chorus of accusations. There are deeper horrors within you. Shadows you have yet to unveil. Through the confusion, a singular shadow materialized, its outline unmistakably male. A figure from her deepest memories, a man she had loved and lost, vanished too soon from her life. His eyes were dull, once vibrant, now clouded with despair. You never healed, he murmured, sorrow drenching his words. You locked me away, just like the truth. No. No. She shrieked, shaking her head violently. You can't be real. I can't face this again. But he stepped closer, every pixel of him loaded with the weight of memories. You can't hide from my death, he whispered, his voice a knife. Or the guilt that lingers like smoke in your mind. Images rushed through her, times she could have reached out but didn't, words she never said, promises she broke. Each instance unfurling like a dark flower blossoming in despair. The shadows laughed, their joy sharp and cruel, feeding off her agony. Face him, Maggie, they chanted, their presence growing monstrous, shifting into grotesque shapes of twisted agony. Or be swallowed by the darkness. With each rise of their malevolent energy, Maggie fought to stand her ground. She knew deep down, they were aching for her to crumble. Heart pounding, she grasped the necklace with both hands, drawing strength from it. I can't change what happened, but I'll honor my past. I will not let it control me. For a heartbeat, silence reigned, the shadows still. But then the shadow man lifted his head, his expression shifting to a mix of sadness and understanding. Then find your truth. It's time. Suddenly, the ground beneath her feet began to rumble, like some ancient beast stirring from sleep. Light surged, igniting the cabin in a flash of brilliance, forcing her to squint. The shadows recoiled slightly, and for a moment, she thought she had gained momentum in this endless struggle, but then the darkness gathered once more, thicker and heavier than before, pulling her into an all-consuming blackness. You still don't see, the voice coiled around her, twisting like a snake. The darkness never truly leaves. Can you swim to the surface or will it drag you under? Maggie gasped as she felt herself slipping, like sand through fingers. She was losing her grip on her resolve. The shadows shrieked, and she could feel their triumph, feel herself teeter at the edge of oblivion. Fight! She whispered to herself. Fight back! But darkness loomed, and as her heart raced, she couldn't tell if she was on the verge of rebirth or complete annihilation. Could she truly unearth the last remnants of her hidden self? Or would she be forever ensnared, trapped in a cycle of shadows? The intensity of the rumbling beneath her feet shifted into a deafening roar, a cacophony of tortured voices filling the air. Maggie's breath quickened. Panic clawed at her throat, threatening to choke her. She focused on the warmth of the necklace, its glow offering a fleeting comfort amongst the gathering shadows. Is this all you are? They taunted, the darkness swirling around her like a maelstrom. A ghost in a cage? A flicker of light that will dare not shine? Shut up! She screamed, trying to push back, to regain control. The shadows recoiled at the volume of her voice, but their laughter returned, mocking and relentless. Each echo chipped away at her resolve, dragging her deeper into her own self-doubt. Just admit it, Maggie, the shadowy figure of the man she lost pleaded. You haven't faced the truth of my death. You're scared to face what lies ahead. Her heart raced, pounding in her chest. I don't want to hear it. She cried, hands shaking. Her vision blurred, the darkness closing in tighter as old memories unfurled before her days when he was still alive, when laughter filled their shared moments. Face your fears, the figure said gently, his voice now soothing yet laced with sorrow. Only then can you break free from what binds you. The shadows pulsed, violent and hungry. They were a living entity, consuming her with despair. You think love can save you? They hissed. Love doesn't save anyone. It's a mirror of your greatest failures. No. She retorted, shaking her head. Love is what I have left. It's why I'm here. Is it enough? The shadows whispered, curling around her, taunting her deepest insecurities. Can your love withstand the truth? What if you find out that love can bring suffering? Her thoughts spiraled. It was true. Love had brought her joy and pain, moments that haunted her. The ripple of what could have been weighed on her heart like stone, but at the core of that pain was resilience, a flicker refusing to die. She felt the necklace burn warm against her chest, pulling her thoughts back to clearer waters. I choose to face it, she vowed, her voice a determined whisper. Whatever I must see, I won't turn away again. The shadows roared in fury, swirling like a tempest, surrounding her in an oppressive darkness. Then face the depths. They shrieked, and suddenly the ground unsteadied underfoot. The world around her shifted, colors swirling violently, light battling to break through. Shadows coalesced around her, forming a fog so thick she could taste the bitterness in the air. A shimmering portal opened, revealing a dark chasm whispering her name, beckoning her closer, closer. Adrenaline surged through her veins, shaking her to the core. This is it, she thought, on the verge of a revelation or a grave mistake. With one last deep breath, Maggie stepped forward, knowing she was about to confront everything she had hidden from herself, but just before she reached the edge of the unknown, a piercing scream echoed from within the portal, freezing her in place. It was a voice she recognized, a haunting cry wrapped in anguish. Help! It pleaded. Who's there? Maggie yelled, panic seeping back in as terror clawed at her heart. She gripped the necklace tightly, glancing between the glowing light ahead and the looming darkness around her. Each moment stretched, a choice dangling before her, confront the voice or turn back into the safety of shadows. With dread thick in her throat, Maggie took her first step into the abyss. What awaited her within that chasm of fear? Who was truly calling out for help? Maggie stumbled forward, heart racing, feeling the familiar grip of terror tighten around her. Help! The voice cried again, piercing the thick darkness like a knife. It echoed deep within the chasm, wrapping around her resolve. I am coming! She shouted, pushing through the doubt that clawed at her thoughts. As she stepped into the portal, the air thickened with memories, swirling images of her past tumbling like autumn leaves caught in a tempest. Shadows flickered, taking forms that tugged at her heart. Memories of laughter, joy, and loss felt all-consuming. Faces of loved ones flickered in and out of sight. But a single cry pressed through the chaos, pulling her deeper into the abyss. Help! Maggie's chest tightened. Who are you? She shouted, hands trembling from the weight of the necklace. Show yourself. The darkness responded by swirling tighter, forming a figure that emerged from the depths, cloaked in despair. It was her younger self, wide-eyed and lost, desperately clutching the remnants of innocence. Maggie, please, her younger self cried, voice choked with fear. Don't leave me. The resemblance was clear. This was the girl she once was, a fragment of herself waiting to be healed. Maggie's heart broke. I'm here, she said, frustration mingling with compassion. This was the fear she had run from, the part of her that lost everything yet still yearned for forgiveness. We can find the way out together. As she reached out, the darkness pulsed like a living thing, surging towards them both. You can't save her, Maggie. The voices hissed like snakes. You can barely save yourself. Shadows clawed at her, grabbing her by the wrists, pulling her back into the spiraling void. But she wouldn't budge. No. She is me. I can't abandon her. A surge of determination exploded from within, and with it, the light from the necklace sparked brighter. The shadows hissed, recoiling from the light's warmth. The pain of the past swirled around her but was met with a steely resolve. Listen to me. Maggie shouted, turning to her younger self. We can overcome this. You've got to trust me. The younger version blinked at her, tears brimming in her eyes, yet something flickered behind the fear-hope. The aura of the necklace pulsed again, washing over them like waves crashing against a rocky shore. You are stronger than this. We've faced so much. Remember? Memories surged, happy moments flickering, hugs from friends, laughter shared over hot cocoa in winter, fleeting moments of connection. In that surge of memory, Maggie felt her resolve solidify, a shield against the darkness. We're not alone. She charged forward, plasma of brilliance erupting from the necklace, illuminating the cavern. Their combined light blazed forward, pushing the shadows back, revealing the depths of the chasm, the paths untaken, the burdens carried. The darkness writhed, thrashing as it pulled back, its hold weakened by the light. No. You can't face the truth. It screamed in tormented disbelief. You're nothing without us. Maggie shook her head. That's where you're wrong. With every ounce of strength, she pulled her younger self closer, wrapping her arms around them both. We are everything together. You are part of me, and I am part of you. I will not let you drown in despair. As the darkness tightened like a vice, the necklace exploded with radiant energy, filling the chasm with light, even blinding to the shadows. The shadows shrieked, contorting and wailing as they were consumed, dispersed into fragments of the past, vanishing like mist in the dawn. The light surged, new paths forming around them, infinite yet familiar. When it began to dim, Maggie felt a warmth enveloping her, wrapping around her and her younger self like an embrace. We're going home, she whispered, the truth washing over them like a wave, and in that moment of clarity, the chasm shifted, the dark veil lifting. The weight of sorrow fell away, revealing a world speckled with vibrant colors. Echoes faded, leaving a canvas of possibilities stretching before them. Maggie cradled the necklace, feeling its warmth resonate through her palm, a connection to all the parts of herself she had accepted, all those memories that made her who she was. Come on, let us see what lies ahead, she said softly, squeezing her younger self's hand. Together, they stepped toward the light, leaving the shadows of the past behind. They ventured into the unknown, side by side, embracing the future with newfound courage. And just like that, the hunt was over. The echoes of despair faded behind them, replaced by the promise of renewal, a chance to build what was lost with the strength forged in facing the darkest truths. Maggie turned one last time to the shadows behind her, now mere whispers, and whispered, "Thank you." Each of them had been a part of her journey, leading her to this moment, where she could finally move forward, and so, they did, with hope lighting their way, ready to embrace whatever lay ahead, together. If you're here with us until the end, now is the time to show your support. Don't forget to subscribe immediately so you don't miss any of our exclusive stories coming your way. Smash that like button now to keep feeding the algorithm. We want to hear from you. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this ending. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Your support makes a difference. You need this community, and we can't wait to share more with you.